And now let's get the latest response from South Korea's Foreign Affairs Ministry and how the international community is reacting to North Korea's fifth nuclear test. We have our Kwon Soa standing by at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Soa.
Daniel, South Korea's foreign ministry has been on high alert since North Korea's signals of a nuclear test this morning, and the ministry has been holding several emergency meetings. Now, the latest one being by Vice Foreign Minister Im Sung-nam, U.S. Ambassador to South Korea Mark Lippert, Commander of U.S. Forces Korea Vincent and the U.S. Principal Deputy Undersecretary of Defense for Policy David Shear, who consulted each other on North Korea's provocations. Earlier, South Korea's Foreign Minister Byung-se, who was out of the country with President Park Geun-hye, discussed the North's threat over the phone with his Japanese and U.S. counterparts. Both Minister Yoon and Tokyo's top diplomat Fumio Kishida denounced Pyongyang's fifth nuclear test and shared their early analyses of it, as well as the results of relevant meetings in their respective countries. In the morning, just like here in Seoul, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe called on a National Security Council meeting.
North Korea did carry out a nuclear test. It is something absolutely unacceptable. We need to and will strongly protest against their actions.
Yoon and Kishida also promised to closely cooperate on the trilateral front with the U.S. Following that conversation, Yoon and his U.S. counterpart John Kerry agreed that Seoul and Washington are on the same page on North Korea's latest nuclear test and said they'll work on closing the loopholes in the sanctions on the regime. U.S. President Barack Obama also vowed to tighten sanctions on North Korea and make them more effective after talking with President Park Geun-hye earlier in the day. Now, North Korea's closest ally, China, issued a statement saying it urges North Korea to, quote, honor its commitment to denuclearization, comply with the relevant Security Council resolutions, and stop taking any actions that worsen the situation. A Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson said Pyongyang's ambassador to Beijing is to be summoned to the ministry.
Well, judging by the rapid response, it looks like North Korea is getting its wish if it wants to be taken seriously as a global threat. Now, the United Nations front, we also are expecting some criticisms in the near future as well, Soa?
Yes, Daniel. South Korea's foreign ministry says that the UN Security Council will convene for an emergency meeting at the UN headquarters in New York Friday afternoon to discuss the latest threats coming from North Korea. And that'll be early Saturday, South Korea time. Now, the meeting has been jointly requested by the U.S., Japan, and South Korea. And the meeting, the 15 council members are expected to first announce their position on the test, then begin to discuss additional sanctions on the regime, which are expected to be harsher than those imposed in March, namely Resolution 2270, which was passed after the North's fourth nuclear test in January. Now, that's all I have for now, but I'll be back with more updates in our later newscast. Back to you, Daniel.